All right. Hey, everyone. Um, Welcome to this contributor session on CI, and we'll cover CD as well. Now, to save bandwidth, I will turn off my video. So I just want to quickly say hi before I do that. Okay. Move on to the presentation shortly. Okay. Hopefully, you see my screen and
Yeah, we can.
okay. Sorry. So that's me, and what we are going to take a look at is continuous integration and continuous deployment at Meshery. My
Sangram,
name is Sangram,
sorry to
and
interrupt. There's some distortion in your
yeah,
voice.
right.
Like
Oh,
it may
okay.
not be using correct mic. Yeah.
I've been having some internet issues, so it could be because of that.
Yeah. In that case, let's keep going. Yeah. It's audible enough. Yeah.
Is it too bad?
I think folks can make sense of what you're saying, but yeah, there's little distortion. Yeah.
Okay, so then just give me a couple of minutes. Let me just join from a different device just for the audio. Yeah.
I think
Quickly
since
join.
participants are saying continue, I think we can, or if you want to take some time,
Okay.
like 2 to 3 minutes, that will be fine.
That's fine. We'll continue. Yeah, I've got some weather issues here, so maybe the internet is a bit patchy because of that. All right,
Let's continue.
back to the slides, and we are going to take a look at how we do continuous integration and continuous deployment at Meshery. My name is Sangram, and I'm one of the maintainers. Um, I come with almost 2 decades of technology experience, and contribution has been relatively new to me in my overall career, but I've been at it for over a year now, and I can say that it's pretty rewarding even late in the late in the career for me. All right. A quick introduction about CI. Um, Essentially, you might be familiar with the terms like DevOps, and DevOps is more of a culture, but a subset of what goes into implementing that practice, that culture, is a set of tools that help you implement continuous integration and continuous deployment. So CI/CD is not necessarily DevOps, which you might have heard from a lot of sources. It's more, a mindset and a principle. But to get there, you need tools, and these tools together help you implement a CI/CD pipeline, you can say. And sometimes there are multiple tools that are used in the pipeline, and sometimes a single tool is able to do CI/CD both, which we will see shortly, in this session. So continuous integration is basically frequent merger of code changes in small iterations and automatically building it and testing it to make sure that you are able to deliver faster, you have faster time to market, and because the changes are small, you are able to roll back easily as well. Okay, the delta between the last change and the new change is small enough to go back and understand where the issue is. If you have a lot of changes in a single, if you have a lot of code changes between one release to another release, and if there are issues, you will find it difficult to pinpoint where the problem could be. That's more or less, in a nutshell, given the time frame that we have, that's more or less what CI means. Now, depending on the organization and the scale of deployment and the number of projects, the way companies and organizations perceive CI and CD could differ. But essentially what you want is you want to make small code changes very fast. Okay. Continuous deployment is again the automated process of releasing that change immediately to production, which is essentially releasing it to the customers. Now, you may have heard about continuous delivery, which is also sometimes abbreviated as CD, but delivery is where you have a manual intervention to release it to production. Continuous deployment is where you do it automatically. Okay. So if someone asks you between continuous delivery and continuous deployment, basically that's the difference. So in a continuous deployment, what you're doing is you are immediately releasing that change to your customers, basically putting it out into production, manual intervention. Okay. You may have, again, like I said, depending on various factors, there might be check gates that might pause or request for approvals. That happens even in a continuous deployment pipeline. But generally speaking, they release it to the customer. Now, in our case, because it's still in a beta phase, we obviously go ahead and release, to production automatically. We obviously don't do it on each and every change that happens on the code, but yes, we decide when to do it. It's you can say it's automated, but at the same time there is a bit of a human decision factor as to when we want to do it. We just don't want to make every small, let's say, documentation change or every small one line code change go into unless we feel that that's an important feature, and then we go ahead and do it, right? So that's a bit about CI and CD, and we have a pretty standard CI/CD pipeline. We don't have it complicated. We have contributors like you who will write code. Once you raise a PR, we have a build process, and then there is testing that we do. Now, the build process is where we use GitHub. I'll talk a bit more about it in the next slide. For testing, we use Bats for the CLI testing, and we use Playwright for our UI. And we release in a variety of formats. We release binaries. We release, so we have a command line interface called Meshery CI. We release that in binary. We release that to Spook. We release that to Homebrew. The container images are published to Docker Hub. The Helm charts that we have are published to Artifact Hub, and we also publish it as a standalone Helm chart in a tar GZ format. And also, obviously, we release the source code as it is, right? So these are various release formats that we have, and we deploy we deploy Meshery and related projects to two different environment formats, one that is purely Docker-based and one that has Kubernetes. Now, this deployment that I'm talking about is we deploying it for others to learn how Meshery works, experiment, and get a first-hand experience of how, let's say, one of our extensions called Canvas works and so on. So this deployment is by Meshery for the customer to get an experience of what Meshery is and how it works and all of that. But you could have a similar pipeline built if you are using Meshery for your own. But yeah, I mean, pretty straightforward, pretty simple CI/CD pipeline. Okay. Do we follow DevOps principles? Yes, we do to some extent. Again, we are an open source project. We have thousands of contributors. We have certain areas where we may not be able to do certain things, but yeah, we try and implement DevOps principles. We have a mindset of collaboration between developers and operations and all jazz that comes with DevOps. So take a look at what DevOps is and what DevOps principles are and the mindset if you're new to it. All right, let's come to an important, so if you're looking to contribute to the CI and the CD, part in Meshery, some of the important things that you should know begins from here. Okay, GitHub Actions or GitHub is our primary CI/CD platform. We use GitHub Actions and workflows for both CI and CD. We build, test, deploy all using GitHub. And what we do is we use something called as GitHub runners that this. Anyways, I'll just use this color. So we use this GitHub runners for a lot of the build and testing. GitHub Actions works pretty well given our requirements. Again, if you come from a background where you are familiar with CI/CD, DevOps, and all of that, you know there are a lot of tools out there. In fact, I would say a ton of tools that you can choose from. Based on our experience and our requirements, GitHub Actions work given our needs. It's event driven. It uses a very familiar format to define the workflows, which is YAML, which a lot of our contributors are familiar with. So we'll go ahead and use that. And it allows, reusable actions, which is, a good thing for us. We sometimes have certain workflows that have reusable actions because we have projects that trigger workflows in other projects. So this is a quick overview of what we use as our core CI/CD platform. We use it for CI and CD both. And the features of GitHub, like GitHub Actions, like event-driven, YAML, reusability, runners, they all make it suitable for us for now. Okay, most of our runners, in fact, all of our runners are on 24.04. We recently updated our runners to this version. So yeah, I mean, if you're wondering what version of Ubuntu the runners have, it's 24.04. Okay. So let's take a look at something before we head to this. By the way, if you're new to the way we are organized, we have two organizations. We have GitHub Meshery, and we have GitHub Meshery extensions. As Vivek was saying, we have hundreds of projects. So recently, we took the decision of moving some of the non-core projects to a different organization called Meshery Extensions. And this one has roughly 20 repos, and the Meshery core has somewhere around 17 repos, which kind of have the core projects of Meshery. Since we have so many projects, we'll kind of focus more on Meshery, okay, which is the main software that you will contribute to. Let's put it that way. And a lot of the examples that I'm demonstrating here belong to this. This one has quite a lot of GitHub actions that we use. So you'll find them under actions. In case you are new to the whole thing, I'm just taking you through it step by step. And these are all the workflows that we have. But again, remember that we don't necessarily use all the workflows at all times. It all depends. Depends on which part of the code has changed. Depends on whether it's a manual workflow or an automated workflow. Depends on whether it's a test. Depends on whether it's triggered from another workflow and so on. You'll find all these workflows under trying to kind of view the code. It's under GitHub workflows. In case you are pretty new, and people who are familiar with how workflows work, they know where it is. In case you're not, then Give it a second, it's still loading. I think I have it here. All right, so while that's loading, so we have a lot of workflows. I've made a table here to kind of give you an idea on the kind of triggers we use and the way it is triggered, basically the trigger mode, right? So some of the common ones that you will probably work with day in, day out is build and release. So we have a build and release for the Meshery CTL. We have a build and release for the Docker desktop edition that we have, which is the extension, Docker desktop extension. We have a build and release for the edge, and we have a build and release for the state. So for example, the Meshery build and release that we do to the edge, think of edge as a staging environment, okay? It's not production. That's manual. Let's say I've made some changes, but I really want to see how it is in staging before I push it to production, right? So I can manually run a workflow to deploy the latest build and the release or to generate just build and release artifacts, but that process is manual. Some get triggered when you do a pull request. Some get triggered when you do a merge, right? Some are based on a workflow dispatch. If you're new to how workflows, work, then I recommend taking a look at, GitHub workflows. And there are a couple of links I'll share towards the end. You could also take a look at it. We have a couple of blogs and documentations that you can look at. Similarly, we have, so when we have built and released Meshery, we kind of deploy it to, a playground. I think I found the color. Okay. Yes. Okay, it's bad. Right, so this is where we kind of deploy it. Similarly, we have some workflows that are used to reset. We use a Kubernetes cluster to let people explore how Meshery works, right? What we do is every night we clean up because otherwise you'll be out of resources like CPU memory and all of that. We also have a staging environment where we, let's say, as I was saying, we want to test something. So we do a build and release at the edge, and then we deploy that edge to a staging environment. This is all manual. Okay, so the idea here is to kind of give you an idea about the type of triggers we use and the way these are triggered. So you can see that we use all possible trigger types. We also have a schedule, by the way, which is this, which runs midnight, right? So that's on schedule. Looking at these workflows or the YAML of these workflows, you can learn as well if you're new to creating workflows. That's a good way to kind of take a look at the YAML files and so for example, let's go to workflows. Right, and I was talking about the playground reset, right? So this is an example of a workflow that runs on schedule. Okay, then we have the production playground deployment. Okay, this is based on a workflow part or a workflow dispatch, as we call it. So if you have already experimented or taken a look at playground, then this deployment is managed by this workflow. Similarly, the other important ones that you should be aware of, again, given the time, one is the build and release stable. This is basically a production, and this build and release stable works on publishing a release. So what happens is, let me kind of take you through this. Okay. So essentially what happens is whenever there is a PR raised by someone, it goes through a series of, steps, right? And you can identify that easily by looking at something like this, okay? So let's say there's a pull request by someone, and that pull request triggers a set of workflows. A high level overview of that is this, okay? So on a PR, essentially what happens is there is a Meshery UI and server build that gets triggered. There is a PR labeler that gets triggered. There is a snapshot service that we have, which the workflow for that is triggered. And then we have an ESLint check that gets triggered. So there's some examples, okay? We have a few more as well, but just to give you an idea. So what's happening right now is someone has done a pull request and we have a few of these running. Now, once a PR is raised and these things run, let's say we review, we come on meetings, very similar to this ones. We have dev meetings and CI meetings and all of that. We go through, a high level overview of the changes that have been made. And let's say we are satisfied with the change, right? So someone has a pull request merge permission, we'll go ahead and merge a pull request. And once your pull request is merged, a set of, what do you call it? A set of different workflows run, okay? They can easily be identified by the word commit, for example. And this is where we are committing that into the master, okay? And these pull requests, you can see they come from a separate fork or a branch, okay? Now, once that happens, essentially what happens is these are kind of staged, you can say. When I say staged here, it's not staging, but these are staged for the release. Now, one of the workflows that runs here, every time when that happens, when that commit happens, when that PR is approved, is a release drafter. So what we do here is we add that change into the release drafter, basically giving an idea that, okay, we have these many changes that are ready for release. That can be found in the releases section. Especially, basically it's a draft, okay? So right now, version 0863 is in draft, okay? The last that we released was 0862. So this is where your changes. So this is a change, okay? That was merged. This is also a change. This is also a change. This is how we stage them. And when we think we have enough changes, or when we think there is an important change that should be released to production, we go ahead and publish this release. So essentially, not everyone will have the permission to do it, but we edit and we say publish release. The moment we do publish release, what happens is, we have a workflow that runs and does a release, and this is available for the public. And based on this, we have our deployment workflows that get triggered, something similar to what I was showing earlier. So maybe this one. So this will get triggered, and that's how the release that we had gets deployed to a destination. In this case, the destination is a Docker host. Similarly, for other projects and for other components of Meshery. So within this Meshery repository, by the way, you have Meshery docs, you have Meshery CTL, and you have Meshery. Other extensions like operator and meshing have their own repos, but they follow a similar approach. Okay. So this is a high level overview of how we do things. Um, you so whenever there is a pull request, there are some workflows that run. If everything checks out, someone with the permission merges the PR, then a second set of workflows run. The release, the code change is added into the release. And then when we decide it's time to release, we go ahead and publish the release, and that kind of generates the final set of artifacts. And like I was saying earlier, we publish the artifacts depending on what the component is. So Meshery CTL gets published to Scoop, gets published to Homebrew, gets published as a binary. The binaries are essentially here on the releases. And the source code, of course. Okay, this is all Meshery CTL and then the source code. Similarly, this is where the hub.docker.com, this is where container images come. Okay, so let's say Meshery. We have adapters. We have images that are published for adapters separately. The projects are also managed separately, as in the GitHub repository is separate. Okay, and something wrong with the loading, I guess. But anyways. And we also publish Helm charts to Artifact Hub, along with the Helm charts going to a repo called Meshery IO. Okay, so these are these are some information on how we do CI/CD here. So if you're looking to contribute, I think one of the areas that you want to be familiar with is how these workflows are created, what is happening in the workflows, what version of runners we are using. Is there a dependency on a specific version of, let's say, Ruby or Go? We are very so if you're using Go as one of your dependencies, and you'll have to use a specific version, because then there are other areas of the project that will get impacted if you change that. If you want to take a look at the Docker files, you can always look at install and look at the Docker files. You're free to look at areas of improvement, okay, and recommend how to optimize, a workflow if you feel like there is a opportunity to kind of do that. Sure, go ahead and take a look at them and feel free to propose your right. So this is a bit about how the whole CI/CD thing works. Our releases are semantic version. So we have a major, minor, patch, and build, the usual process. We document all of the changes in the changelog and the release that I was just showing you. But every time there is a release, you can also go to the changelog. This is an important aspect of that. So publish it into a document as well. And I'm not someone who uses Zoom a lot, so. Okay, what do we release? I gave you some examples already. We release Meshery Server, we release the Meshery CTL, we release Meshery Docs, we have Mesh Sync, Meshery Operator. These are some high traffic projects that we release frequently. And then we have a lot of others. And then quite a few projects under Meshery extensions also go through frequent releases. And again, like I mentioned, we release in Docker Hub, the container images. We release Helm charts in a .gz format and also into Artifact Hub. And we release the Meshery CTL in 3 different places, 4 different places, apart from the source code. Okay, this is the documentation where you can find information in much more detail. The link is something that I will put in the chat. So take a look at this. This should give you an idea on the overall CI/CD process. Now, this is only build and release. This does not have a lot of details around deployment, but you still get an idea on how we do the build and release, which is the important part, because we want to release the artifacts so others can go ahead and use Meshery and the related extensions. Okay, the deployment is more for us. Okay, we deploy so that if someone wants to explore how Meshery works, how Canvas works, how designs are created, how designs are exported, how designs are imported. Sure, we have that. Okay. Again, as Vivek was saying, as you progress in your contribution, you may gradually get access to how the deployment is done and where the servers are. But just to give you a high-level overview, our Meshery Playground is running on a Docker host, bare metal, and the Meshery needs to connect to a Kubernetes server, right, to deploy your designs. That is a separate Kubernetes single node bare metal cluster. Okay, just to give you a high-level overview on the infrastructure that we use for the deployment. Okay. And we have another standalone Kubernetes cluster that we use for some internal projects and some other projects, which again, is something that happens on maturity within the project. But yeah, I mean, if you're wondering what do we use for deployment, we use Docker. It's not connected to Kubernetes. It's a standalone Docker host. And then we have a standalone Kubernetes host that we use as a playground area, right? So that's what gets cleaned up every night, the scheduled workflow that you saw earlier. The tests are all driven through, as I was mentioning, the Meshery CTL is through PATS, which is Bash based. We had a similar contributor training a few weeks back. Go to the YouTube channel and you probably find it. And for the UI, we use Playwright. I think we might have a session on that sometime in the future. I'm not sure if we had that one, but yeah, I mean, if you're wondering what happens with the testing, then that's what happens. Apart from this, we are introducing a lot of security related stuff into the CI and CD as well. It's a work in progress. We recently had a security slam at the KubeCon EU, and we continue to run something called as Security Sentinel. If you are someone who has a knack for security, we have quite a few issues that you can pick that is tagged as security, and you can look at contributing. We are looking at introducing a vulnerability scanner into the pipeline shortly. And we recently introduced open source security baseline parameters that gets automatically scanned for the GitHub repository to, kind of identify, let's say if we have excessive permissions or we do not have permissions or other things, right? So we have, if you're wondering, DevSecOps is a very talked about thing. So yes, security is in this. It's a work in progress. Everything is a work in progress. And yeah, sure, we have a few security related stuff in here as well. Otherwise, essentially what happens is, what I would recommend is, see, security is a shift left approach. Since you guys will be contributing, whether you contribute to the code, whether you contribute to CI or to documentation, always make sure that you are running some vulnerability scans locally before you create a PR. And you can always do that using tools like SNCS CLI, which is free. Okay, to some extent it is free, but that's enough for contributions. Okay, so if you are not familiar about it, I mentioned the name on the chat. Go ahead and search about it, and you will find that there is a free API that they provide. You can create free accounts, install the CLI, and make sure you scan your code for known vulnerabilities. And yeah, if you find a new vulnerability and you're able to raise a fix for it, create an issue, create a PR, great. I mean, we continue to award the Security Sentinel badge for anyone who does any security related contributions. We are over time. I'm done with this. That's all for now. There's quite a lot, but given the time that we have, this is a high level overview of the CI and CD that we have at Meshery. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sangram, for your session on CI. And I myself learned a couple of things, and I'm hopeful that others will be too. And shortly after the meeting, as the recording is available, we'll be making sure that it's published on our community forum, including the slide deck that you were seeing. So I'll quickly share other sessions too. So this is a GitHub issue where we are tracking all the sessions. I'll be detailing that in that. It's also linked down in the Google Docs in here. So right now you can take a look at this Google Docs and see that it's the same link. And in this GitHub comment, I have all the upcoming sessions and the ones that have already been completed, like the end-to-end testing in Meshery CI that Sangram was pointing out. And so if you'd like to check out that session, you can simply click on to this link that should take you to the post. And we'll be doing the same for this one too. And again, you can take a look at the upcoming ones. One also important thing that I would like to mention is about Security Slam. It's something that Sangram pointed out, and in fact was an event that he led onto the KubeCon EU that happened the very first week of this month. And so you can read more about that. And if you'd like to, so this is a still ongoing activity. And there's this project board where you can find all the security issues and you like to contribute. You simply can sound off on one or many of them. I'll be sure to link that down as well. As an award, like this Lego piece was awarded to in-person participant, and for all the other folks who are participating right now currently, they get Security Sentinel badges on their cloud profile, and they are celebrated on the weekly dev meetings. So it might be you finding yourself in the similar graphic next time that we celebrate. So I think I've already shared this in chat. If I'm not, I'll quickly do that. All right. Couple of you I see might have joined when the session started. So just to quickly mention that we also are doing this exercise of having your first pull request merged into the CNCF project like Meshery before you get off this call. So many of you already have participated in it and have your attendances PRs merged. So all of these individuals have their files created. In the file, they are including content about like themselves, their links and portfolio sites link and other details that they want other members to know. And you can participate too. So you simply can go to this GitHub folder that I'll be quickly sharing in the chat, and you can just have your pull request up and take inspiration from any existing and merged pull requests. So if we go to pull request tab, and if you take a look at my pull request, you can use for like you can use pull request translation and can have something similar going. So I'm hopeful if you run into an issue, you will ask that too. We are like already 6 minutes over, but I would like to take 2 minutes to quickly talk about some good first issues like this one that are in the docs and you would like to comment in order to get assigned. So get started. And also this one. So we have around 50 good first, and these are for first timers only. So if you're someone who is here for the very first time, then you would be able to participate into these issues, which are just writing string. So once again, I'll be taking this epic issue, which has many children in them. You can comment on one that's not already assigned to some other folks. And I would quickly point out some resources. If we talk about these tutorials, many of the tutorials are authored by Sangram, the presenter just now. This one, like exploring Kubernetes pods with Meshery, could be a good starting point for you to be getting familiar with the tool and know how it integrates with, a lot of other Cloud projects and how you can learn them hands-on in a free Kubernetes cluster environment without having to install anything, just right in your browser. So let me quickly share that too. Looks like I pasted it, but let's get that link shared in the chat. And then there are other materials too that you can refer to. In the very end, we have a couple of resources that you can take a look at. So Meshery Playground, again, I'll be sharing that link. And then a couple of learning parts. If you want us to work on any recordings or tutorial, you can request that as well. Our community forum where like all the knowledge is shared and we collaborate with each other. It's at this URL, discuss.layer5.io. I will be also sharing that. So if you run into an issue or if you just have any question, you can just post them in to the community forum. Community handbook is your go-to guide if you want to know more about the projects, various areas like contributing guidelines, various projects, mentorship program that we have, various roles, and how you also can be one of them into the handbook. And similarly, like there are some programs that you can again check out yourself. They have detailed instructions and guidelines on our upcoming sessions, available projects and stuff. And at any point, if you get any issue, like you have some questions in mind, you can ask in the public Slack channel. Yeah, do start a project if you have not yet. So it's a request. I will be waiting for it to load. So we recently crossed 7,000 GitHub stars, and thanks to all the community members like you. But yeah, if you are someone who has not yet started, please do leave a star if you want to appreciate all the work that's being done by contributors like Sangram, yourself, and many others. So I'll be sharing that quickly. And that was all. If you want to share your feedback on this session or this newcomers meeting in particular, there is a forum. There's a post on forum where you can either say simple thank you or if you have any suggestions for us. So there you go in the chat. But like that was all, folks, that we had to discuss. We have many more meetings, like not necessarily the sessions, but weekly dev meetings and community meetings that you can be part of. You all are more than welcome to join. Based on your interests and time, you can take a look at that. I will be quickly sharing what are those. So on Monday, we have weekly sites meeting, and we obviously talk about sites, our design system, and UI UX. On Wednesday, we talk about Meshery development meeting. On Thursday, that is today, we participate in newcomers meeting. That's weekly meeting, and then also build and release meeting that happens every second and fourth Thursday of the week. So you don't have to be worrying about the meeting timings and stuff. You simply can subscribe to the calendar to get it all added to your calendar and sending you updates and reminders. So that's also linked down in chat. That was all that we had to discuss. I'm hopeful that you all found the session insightful and it helped you in your contribution journey. We'll be having many such upcoming sessions, and that I already shared how you can find more. If you have any questions on the session or any other CI related questions, we have a channel dedicated to that in our Slack workspace. So let me also go ahead by sharing the community link in chat. If you have not joined, please do, and you can then start engaging with the community. So yeah, please do ask your questions in Meshery CI channel. I will see you all next week in websites meeting, and if not in any other meeting. But for today, it's all, folks. I'll see you on in Slack. Bye.
Thanks, Brian.